Picture Pearson International Airport on a Tuesday morning. Walk past the tourists heading to Cancun. Ignore the families reuniting at arrivals. Look at the departure line for flights to San Francisco, Austin, and New York. Look at the faces. They are young, they are tired, and they are holding one-way tickets. Canada is famous for exporting natural resources. We send oil, lumber, and aluminum to the world. But right now, the most valuable commodity leaving our borders isn't in a shipping container. It is standing in line at security, holding a degree from Waterloo or McGill. It is human capital. We are witnessing a silent evacuation. It is not televised. There are no protests in the streets. There are just thousands of quiet decisions made at kitchen tables late at night. Decisions made by the brightest minds in the country to pack their lives into 2 suitcases and leave. This is not about the weather. This is not about politics. It is about math. For the last decade, Canadian politicians have told you that diversity is our strength. They told you that immigration is our economic engine. But they forgot to mention the other side of the ledger. While we open the front door to millions of newcomers, the back door has been left wide open. And the people walking out that back door are the ones we can least afford to lose. They are the doctors who should be treating your parents. They are the engineers who should be building our infrastructure. They are the entrepreneurs who should be creating the next Shopify. They are leaving because the social contract has been broken. They are leaving because the Canadian dream has become a mathematical impossibility within our own borders. Today, we are going to look at the numbers that the government hopes you never see. We are going to compare the life of a professional in Canada versus the United States. We are going to strip away the patriotism and the polite denials. We are going to look at the cold, hard data of why the smartest people in the room are heading for the exit. And by the end of this video, you will have to answer a very uncomfortable question. Are you staying in Canada out of love? Or are you staying out of fear? The Spreadsheet of Doom. To understand this tragedy, we have to stop thinking like citizens and start thinking like accountants. We need to look at the Spreadsheet of Doom. Let's create an avatar. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah is 32 years old. She is a senior software engineer. She did everything right. She studied hard, got good grades, and landed a great job at a tech firm. Let's look at Sarah's life in 2 different timelines. In timeline A, Sarah lives in Toronto, the economic engine of Canada. In timeline B, Sarah lives in Austin, Texas, a growing tech hub in the United States. Let's look at the income. In Toronto, a senior engineer role pays well by Canadian standards. She makes $120,000 Canadian dollars a year. That sounds like a lot of money. It puts her in the top 10% of earners. But now, the government takes its share. Between federal tax, provincial tax, and payroll deductions like CPP and EI, Sarah loses about 30% to 35% of her paycheck right off the top. Her marginal tax rate is over 43%. That means for every extra dollar she works for, the government takes almost half. Her take-home pay is roughly $85,000 a year. Now let's look at expenses. Sarah wants to buy a home, not a mansion. Just a standard, middle-class home. In Toronto, the average detached home costs $1.1 million. Even a decent condo is pushing $750,000. With her salary, banks will laugh her out of the building. She qualifies for a mortgage of maybe $450,000. She is mathematically locked out of ownership, so she rents. She pays $3,000 a month for a 1-bedroom glass box in the sky. After rent, food, transport, and utilities, Sarah has almost nothing left to save. She is a high-income earner who is living paycheck to paycheck. Now, let's look at timeline B. Sarah moves to Austin, Texas. First, the salary currency changes. The same job in the U.S. pays significantly more. She gets an offer for $160,000 US dollars. If we convert that to Canadian dollars, that is over $215,000. She has effectively doubled her salary just by crossing a border. But wait, it gets better. Texas has zero state income tax. Zero. She only pays us federal tax. Her effective tax rate is much lower than in Ontario. Her take-home pay in purchasing power is massive. Now, let's look at the house. In Austin, the housing market has cooled. You can buy a beautiful, modern 3-bedroom house with a yard for $450,000 to $500,000. Let that sink in. She earns double the money, and the house costs half the price. In Toronto, Sarah is a renter for life. In Austin, Sarah is a homeowner in 3 years. This is the productivity trap. In Canada, your labor is devalued and your assets are inflated. In the US, high-skilled labor is rewarded. When Sarah looks at these two spreadsheets side by side, the choice isn't emotional, it is rational. Staying in Canada is a financial error. It is a decision to voluntarily reduce your lifetime earnings by millions of dollars. Critics will scream about the exchange rate or the cost of health insurance. We will get to that. But you cannot argue with the base reality. The standard of living for a professional in the US is now vastly superior to their counterpart in Canada. This gap wasn't always this wide. 30 years ago, the difference was negligible. Today, it is a canyon, and the bridge across that canyon is burning. The broken promise of security. Whenever you bring up the salary gap, defenders of the Canadian status quo play their trump card. They say, but at least we have free health care. They say, at least we are safe. They say, the US is a dystopian war zone where you will go bankrupt if you break your leg. This is the great Canadian coping mechanism. We have been conditioned to believe that our poverty is the price we pay for security. But let's audit that claim. Is the healthcare actually free? No. Sarah in Toronto pays thousands of dollars a year in taxes specifically to fund that system. And what does she get for it? If she needs a family doctor, she goes on a waiting list. There are millions of Canadians without a primary care physician. She needs to see a specialist. The average wait time in Canada is over 27 weeks. That is half a year. Waiting in pain. Waiting in anxiety. In a medical emergency, time is the only currency that matters. And in Canada, the system is bankrupt of time. Now look at Sarah in Texas. Yes, she has to pay for health insurance. Or more likely, her high-paying tech job covers 90% of the premium. Her out-of-pocket maximum is capped. If she needs an MRI, she gets it this week. If she needs a specialist, she sees one in days. She is paying for access, yes, but she actually gets access. In Canada, we have a system of rationing by waiting. In the US, they have a system of rationing by price. For a high-income professional, the American system is objectively better. The Canadian system is only better if you are unemployed or destitute. And this reveals the harsh truth about the Canadian model. It is a system designed to raise the floor, but it aggressively lowers the ceiling. It punishes success to subsidize stagnation. Let's talk about safety. We are told Canada is a safe haven. But walk through downtown Vancouver. Walk through the subway stations in Toronto. We have imported the social decay of American cities, but without the American economic dynamism. We have the tent cities. We have the opioid crisis. We have the random violence. But we don't have the high wages to insulate ourselves from it. The social contract was supposed to be simple. We pay high taxes. The government provides world-class services and a safe society. That deal is off. The taxes are still high, but the services are crumbling. The roads are full of potholes. The emergency rooms are closed. The police are overwhelmed. So Sarah asks herself a dangerous question. What exactly am I paying for? Why am I giving half my income to a system that cannot even guarantee me a doctor? This is the moment the patriotism fades and the resentment begins. The innovation dessert. It is not just about the money or the hospitals. It is about ambition. Canada has a culture problem. We have something called tall poppy syndrome. If you grow too tall, if you are too ambitious, the culture wants to cut you down to size. Good enough is the national motto. Look at our business landscape. It is dominated by oligopolies. 5 banks, 3 telecom companies, 3 grocery chains. These companies do not innovate. They do not have to. The government protects them from foreign competition. They sit there, extracting rent from the population. They charge you the highest cell phone rates in the world. They charge you monthly fees just to hold your own money. For a talented engineer or an entrepreneur, this environment is suffocating. If Sarah wants to work on the cutting edge of AI or aerospace or biotech, she has very few options in Canada. The venture capital isn't there. The risk appetite isn't there. Canadian investors are risk-averse. They would rather invest in a condo in Mississauga than a startup in Waterloo. Real estate has cannibalized all the investment capital in the country. Why would anyone bet on a risky new business when they can just buy a house and watch it appreciate tax-free? So the innovation economy starves. This creates a glass ceiling for talent. You can rise to a certain level in Canada, and then you hit the roof. To go higher, to manage bigger teams, to solve harder problems, you have to go south. The U.S. economy is ruthless, yes, but it is dynamic. It rewards risk. It celebrates ambition. For someone like Sarah, who spent her whole life striving for excellence, Canada feels like a small room with the windows closed. The air is stale. She wants to breathe. And the only fresh air is across the border. The guilt trap. So why hasn't everyone left? If the math is so clear, why are millions of professionals still grinding it out in Toronto and Vancouver? The answer is psychological. It is the guilt trap. From the moment we are born, Canadians are fed a diet of anti-Americanism. It is central to our national identity. We define ourselves not by what we are, but by what we are not. We are not Americans. We are nicer. We are more polite. We care about the collective. Leaving Canada is framed as a moral failure. If you move to the U.S., you are seen as a traitor. You are selling out. You are trading your soul for a few extra dollars. This narrative is a powerful prison. It keeps people trapped in a system that is abusing them. It exploits your loyalty. But let's reframe this. Is it selfish to want a bedroom for your child? Is it selfish to want to be able to afford fresh food? Is it selfish to want to retire before you are 75? Leaving a failing economic zone is not a betrayal. It is a survival strategy. Your first obligation is not to the tax revenue of the Canadian government. Your first obligation is to your family, to your future. You cannot help your community if you are drowning in debt. You cannot be a charitable citizen if you are struggling to pay rent. The most patriotic thing you can do is to be strong, independent, and successful. And if you cannot achieve that in Canada, you have a duty to find a place where you can. History is full of migrations. Our ancestors came to Canada because it offered a better deal than Europe or Asia at the time. They moved for opportunity. Now, the deal has changed. The opportunity has moved. Following the opportunity is not abandoning your heritage. It is honoring the spirit of your ancestors who sought a better life. Do not let the government guilt-trip you into poverty. They are banking on your compliance. They are banking on you being too polite to leave. The hollowing out. We need to talk about what happens next. What happens to the country left behind? This is the terrifying part. When the high earners leave, they take the tax base with them. In Canada, the top 10% of earners pay over 50% of all income taxes. When Sarah leaves, she takes her $40,000 or $50,000 in annual tax contributions with her. Who makes up the shortfall? You do. The people who stay, the government, cannot cut spending. They have massive liabilities. So they will have to raise taxes on the shrinking middle class. This creates a death spiral. Higher taxes drive more professionals away, which requires even higher taxes, which drives more people away. Meanwhile, the population is aging. Healthcare costs are exploding. We are losing the very people we need to pay for the elderly. We are importing millions of low-skilled workers to boost the GDP numbers, but these workers do not contribute significantly to the tax base in their first few years. They actually put more strain on the infrastructure. We are hollowing out the core of the nation. Canada is risking becoming a boutique resort for the global rich and a labor camp for the temporary worker. With a missing middle, the doctors are gone. The engineers are gone. The builders are gone. What is left is a shell. A very expensive, very polite shell. The brain drain is not a future threat. It is a current hemorrhage. We are bleeding out. And the government is putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. So, here is the verdict. The Canadian dream is not dead. It is just relocated. It moved south. It moved to Texas, to Florida, to North Carolina. The things you want: a home of your own, a safe neighborhood, a doctor you can see, salary that allows you to save. These things still exist. But they are becoming statistically impossible to achieve in the major cities of Canada. I am not telling you this to depress you. I am telling you this to liberate you. You have a passport, you have skills, you have options. The border is not a wall. It is a filter. It filters for ambition. It filters for those who are willing to take a risk to reclaim their future. If you are sitting there, feeling the walls closing in, feeling the tightness in your chest every time you pay your bills, realize that you are not a tree. You can move. The tragedy of Canada is not that it is a bad place. It is a beautiful place, but it is an economic trap for the young and ambitious. You have to ask yourself, in 10 years, will you regret leaving, or will you regret staying? Will you regret trying to build a life in a land of opportunity? Or will you regret sinking slowly into the quicksand of a stagnating economy, wondering what could have been? The choice is yours, but the math is screaming at you. Run. If you have decided that you are ready to explore your options, if you are ready to stop complaining and start planning, you need to understand the mechanism of escape. It is called the TN visa. It is the golden ticket for Canadian professionals. In the next video, I'm going to break down exactly how to get it. I will explain the categories, the paperwork, and how to land a job in the US in 90 days or less. Do not accept your fate. Design your future. Subscribe, and I will see you on the other side.